Everyone, this is Erin Cruz of the Erin Cruz Show. Thank you. Welcome to Queen of Politics. I am your host, Erin Cruz, as I just said. We are on the road tonight. I'm hoping you can hear me. I missed Tuesday night's political core, unfortunately. I've been caring for somebody who's hurt themselves, and I didn't want to miss tonight because tonight is really important. We have a lot going on as a nation, and I'm fed up. And you know, today I'm not sure if you're aware. I've posted on social media and other things. It's the 4-year anniversary of the passing of my late husband, Rene Cruz. It's been a difficult 4 years losing him, but I could not pass up this opportunity to speak about kind of what we went through as a couple. He passed of pancreatic cancer back in 2013. And what better of a day than now to talk about Obamacare, AHCA, and the legislation that's being kind of pinned to the wall in the Senate and hardwalled by Congress members who don't suffer under the current legislation, who didn't suffer under the prior lack of legislation or legislation that was there, which maybe was more delegated to the states and what have you. But, you know, I mean, kind of these policies that were in place in the United States even before Obamacare went into place. And I just wanted to make sure and kind of take this opportunity, this special day. He passed, he's gone, my husband is, and he passed of cancer, and that was, again, in 2013. Now, at that point, Obamacare, really, most of the provisions hadn't been put into place. I mean, some of the policy had, and there was starting to see kind of an uptick in premiums, a kind of an uptick in the insurance platforms. You would, you know, kind of hear them, people in the industries kind of complain, especially because I was going through the medical situation with my late husband. I was privy to these sorts of conversations with the insurance companies and really watching what was going on because I was concerned. And fortunate enough for my late husband and I, there really wasn't, I mean, it was a hard haul in terms of insurance and getting care, but it was not like it is today. Things, thank goodness, went smoothly for my late husband and his treatments, what they could do for him and for me in terms of his care through the process. It cost a fortune to treat and give palliative care, you know, which is basically making sure that someone's comfortable when they're facing kind of a terminal illness, and all they can really do is try to make you more comfortable. It is expensive. And unfortunately, you know, these cases we see them all across the nation and across the world, but we see them all across the nation where so-and-so's relatives have cancer and they're having to get treatments and all of this. And it's expensive. It is. It all comes down to money. And it had my late husband and I, thank God he had a phenomenal job. He had worked his whole life very, very hard. And he had a good job, and we had insurance coverage. And our premiums were pretty hefty. Our deductible was very large. But we were able to get top-tier care because that was our decision, and we had to make some tough choices. But thank goodness we had insurance. If we didn't have insurance, we would have been I don't know what I would have done. And quite honestly, many other people are out there, and they probably are in that same boat. However, so I kind of want to get back to the AHCA and what I've seen, because I've suffered from my own ailments and situations over this last 3 years now. My husband passed away 4 years ago, and I've suffered from my own ailments the last 3 years pretty substantially. And I have had the most difficult time working through doctors and insurance companies and trying to get, solutions, and not just Band-Aids, not just pills, but actual solutions to my situations and, physical situations, health. And the current, it's interesting because not a lot of people understand what Obamacare is, okay? They don't understand what Obamacare is. They just kind of lump all insurance into Obamacare. Well, I think I want to paint a little bit of a picture for y'all. Many of you may know what it is and the differences between kind of the platforms that are going on right now, and some of you might not. So I'm going to explain it in layman's terms. In the United States, we had legislation passed by Congress, which pretty much, the short of it is, insurance companies had to provide a certain level of care and coverage to parties who were enrolled. Okay? It's all insurance had to meet and comply with these minimum of coverages. Now, that wasn't right away. That wasn't right the minute they passed it. No. It was all transitioned over time. And that's why some people like myself, every January, it seems, my insurance changes because it no longer meets what the new definition of Obamacare is in terms of the legislation and what they have to cover and the minimums that they have to cover and the different policies. So they moved me over to a plan that's pretty much the same plan and meets these regulations, okay? And so all of the insurance companies have to meet these sort of minimums, all right? And now there are people who are in certain groups who don't have a lot of money. Now they can, because they qualify, they can go through and apply, depending on, where they fit. They can apply for Obamacare. Obamacare meaning through one of the exchange programs, they can, if available, they can apply for government, I don't know if you want to call it assistance, but for the government health insurance, through the government kind of portal, if you will. I'll call it the black hole, the government black hole of insurance, okay? And so you don't have a lot of money, so you go through there. If you don't have, or if you're very, very poor, you'll apply and you'll receive free care. Now, that's not free care. That's free care for you, not free care. Somebody's paying for it, okay? And you want to know who's paying for it. It's the people who are just above. Now, they make enough to put food on their table and a roof over their head, okay? But they don't make kind of that much. The tiers are pretty low, actually. I was surprised when I looked at the numbers. But they make enough that they aren't going to get any government subsidy. So, you would be well enough to pay for your own coverage. So you go through either your employer, or if, let's say, your employer doesn't offer you insurance, which they're supposed to, most of them do, the government has also said, hey, if you have these employees who maybe, they don't fit underneath your little umbrella, they can come over to ours. And so some people can still go in that Obamacare route, but they pay pretty much their own premium. So they can still have access to insurance coverage, okay? But it's not like it was before, where pretty much you had to be employed in order to get a health insurance rate that you could afford and have health insurance coverage. And so those particular rates still, even if you go through that route, or if you go through your own private insurance, those rates are increasing exponentially. And for example, I would tell you that mine have gone up 100%. Okay? And many other people have seen even more of an increase than that. And that's just, I think I faced 30 some odd percent increase this last year. The year before that, it was quite a bit more. And the year before that, it was quite a bit more than that. And over time, you just go, ooh, that's a lot. So these people who can, quote unquote, afford their own coverage and their own insurance premiums, buy insurance on their own through either their employer, through the state, or through, whatever is the program that they have to pay for themselves, which is great. And that doesn't mean that means that their insurance policy, they have insurance, okay? Obamacare said you have to have insurance. Obamacare said that, we're going to make sure that there's a mandate and that everybody is going to have insurance. That's what that policy, Obamacare policy, said. So if you don't, you have to pay a penalty. Well, okay, let's say this very simply. The people who can afford to pay for their own health care premiums for that healthcare insurance, now their premiums are so high and their coverages, I know for me, my coverage is the same and my premiums have gone up and my deductible has gone up. So my deductible used to be about $5,500, I want to say. Now my deductible is $7,500. All right? $7,500. Now, that means that not only do I pay my monthly premiums, not only do I pay whatever co-payments when I go to the doctor, I have an amount that I have to meet and spend in order to get care, in order for my insurance coverage to cover doctors' costs. So, I mean, that's just putting it very simply. Of course, there are a lot of other details to go into, blah, 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 blah. But who pays, I'm going to tell you, who pays for the guy who gets the quote-unquote free health insurance? Who's getting Medicaid and he's an adult, just say, and he's not working, and so he's considered poor, and he's getting Medicaid, and it's free health insurance. Everybody has to have health insurance. Well, guess who's paying for it? Me and everybody else who are paying these huge bloated premiums that are not enrolled in these sort of exchange type programs that are subsidized from the government, okay? That's who's paying for it. And I'll tell you what, it's unsustainable. And if you think to yourself, but that's the right thing to do, we should help people in need. Okay, well, yeah, a certain level of the population needs help, but not, people who can work for themselves. Think of it this way. It's great to have your neighbor over for dinner, all right? And it's great to have them over as a guest, and it's great, if somebody is in trouble or if they're struggling, it's great to help out, and it's good for the church or different community segments to step in and help with a hand up and kind of help get them on their feet. Okay, that's great. That's a good thing to do. But there comes a point when that is absolutely 100% unsustainable. And there comes a point when you have to say, when is enough enough? And so we have this segment of the population who, for whatever reason, they're not, they're wanting their fair share, but they're not wanting to have to work for it. And there's just something not right about that. I mean, if you've ever had kids and you don't just give them an allowance, they need to work around the house. They need to do chores. They need to help out, right? it's a similar idea. I know it's a lot more complex than that, but just to give you a little picture. So now, here we have this segment of the population who's not working and receiving benefits that shouldn't be received, and then there's another part of the population that's being literally forced to pay for it. Now, Obamacare, what it's done, and it's said that everybody has to have insurance, and of course some people are like, screw that, I'm not going to pay for insurance, I'll pay the fine. Well, the fine is hefty, and then not only that, they don't have insurance, so if something happens, yada yada yada. Okay, fine. They don't want insurance, let them pay the fine. But what it's also said is that everybody must participate. And we all know that it's not sustainable. That sort of thinking is not sustainable. We look at other kind of socialist countries, and it's just not sustainable. It hasn't worked before, and it's never going to work. And you're taking from other people to pass it around and spread the wealth, and it's not going to work. So what we're looking at is an Obamacare that basically has failed, a policy that's failed. And instead of Democrats saying, gosh, we see something that's, you know what, we were wrong. When we passed this, we were wrong. We've had, 7 years of this transitioning in, and boy, were we wrong. Let's fix some things. Let's tweak some things. Let's adjust some things. No. We've got them digging in their feet and saying, if you change the policy, people are going to die. The hysteria is out of control. And so tonight, what I want to talk about is the AHCA and how when we look at the AHCA, which is the policy that was passed by the House, we see the truth about it. When we look at Obamacare and what the CBO said, the Congressional Budget Office said some years ago before the Democrats pass it, when we look at Obamacare, we see it for what it is, okay? And we recognize that it's failed. It's failed Americans, it's failed the citizenry, and it's failed in our economy, and we see it nationwide, all right? What do? We just complain about it? No, we need to fix it. Now, when we look at the CBO report, because the Congressional Budget Office, as I just mentioned a second ago, the Congressional Budget Office puts out a report anytime Congress wants to pass legislation. And when they did that for Obamacare, and we're going to say it for what it is, the failed policy of Obamacare, they were wrong. The congressional budget was wrong on its estimates on enrollments. It was wrong on its estimates of cost. It said that it would save us X amount of money over a decade. And it blah, blah, blah. I can go on and on and on and on and on. But Congressional Office was wrong. Congressional Budget Office was wrong on Obamacare. Now, when we look at the AHCA, which was passed in the House, and then now has gone to the Senate, and the Congressional Budget Office, thank God, was given something, given a reason to have to work, to put out their information on what the Senate was going to be taking a look at and making a vote on. The Congressional Budget Office had the opportunity to be truthful. And I really was hoping when they were going to look at this that they would come up with an actual, it's so hard, these offices are made up of people, okay? And what we've seen is with the Congressional Budget Office, they pretty much supported Obamacare, and now they're pretty much against this particular revision that's gone to the Senate, okay, for the AHCA and the vote that would be coming up. Basically, they said, 22 million people were going to lose insurance if this legislation passes. I'm going to tell you what, I have never seen such a load of crap from an office that's supposed to be independent, that's supposed to actually give us information. They are as skewed as the media, and I am disgusted. And tonight we're just going to blow the lid off of this. I'm going to say very clearly to every one of you that when the CBO said that 22 million people were going to lose insurance and be left without insurance, they forget to tell you that that's part of that number is the people who were forced, okay? Forced to get insurance or face penalties. Forced, mandated to get insurance that cost them too much, that didn't allow for the options that maybe best suited their family. They were forced to buy these policies. And now because they choose, okay, once we're forced, now are choosing to unenroll in Obamacare, in the AHCA, maybe there might be a better option for them personally to pay cash for services because they're otherwise a healthy person and only see the doctor once a year. Who knows? But when they choose to let go of their forced plan, they are lumped into that 22 million people. Yeah? Now, I want to ask you, if you are a smart person, if you find that you're, have at least average intelligence, you see yourself as having some common sense, you're level-headed, you pay your bills on time, or, you might be struggling a bit, but you figure out, you make a way, you make ends meet, you put food on your table, food in your belly, you take care of things, you're responsible. Do you think that you have a brain enough to figure out when somebody's lying to you? Because right now, the American public are being 100% lied to by folks in government. And I say that clearly, folks in government, because not everyone in government is bad. Not all agencies of government are bad. But there are people within our government, within our nation, doing jobs and not being ethical about them. Not doing the right thing by the people. Not providing information that we are entitled to. The Congressional Budget Office has a responsibility to the citizenry, to the Senate, to provide information so proper choices can be made. They should be splitting those numbers apart, very concisely explaining what the differences in loss might be and why. They should be stating very clearly what kind of impact this can have and be objective about it. And what we're seeing is no objectivity. We're seeing a complete fraud, if you want to ask me quite honestly and frankly. And what I'm also seeing is a media that's all too quick to spread that top line, that headline piece of information, and use fear in the hearts of man to sway public opinion against a legislation that could potentially ease premiums, could potentially make healthcare insurance, okay? Because there's a difference between healthcare and healthcare insurance. Make healthcare insurance more affordable with competition, with the ability to have plans that maybe cover less, some plans that cover more, options for the American people might make it more affordable, and therefore more people might buy coverage. And the CBO, the media, and many Democrats and even Republicans in Congress are lying. They're not being truthful. They're not being forthright. And my question to you as an American citizen, and to myself even, has been over the last day, why are they lying to us? And why are they not doing their job and passing amendments or legislation that would benefit us all, that would ease those premiums, that would help encourage enrollment, that would not mandate, because I'd have to say that even the House bill mandates purchase of insurance, just in a different way, is how they penalize in a different way. But why is Congress avoiding doing its job? Why is Congress not following through on its obligation and responsibility to pass legislation which will benefit the American people and not harm the American people? And the only thing that I could come up with is it doesn't benefit them. It does not benefit the interests that are tied to them. So now what do we do? I'm going to tell you what we do. We put pressure on them. We tell them, look, and this is the way I look at it, okay? And you may not look at it the same way, and I think what's important is that you stay independent and that you contact your congressperson, whomever that might be, and you tell them what you want, and you ask them where they stand, and then you tell them again what you want, and keep on in that, I'd say, on a weekly basis with respect to different bills and legislation. But what I'm going to tell you right now is this, is that I strongly feel that if they could come up with a legislation, a piece of legislation that very simply does a couple of things. It opens up the ability, okay, tort reform would be good. Opening up the ability to buy insurance across state lines, anything that would encourage competition in the insurance company, platform, anything that would encourage that kind of competition would be encouraged. The other thing that I would suggest would probably be that the mandates be thrown out the frickin' window, okay? And I know the idea would be that everybody would enroll. Well, look, if they had a plan that was for, younger people where they could get a physical once a year and, blah, 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 and it was affordable, I'm sure young people would have it. But the issue now is that Obamacare, these high premiums, these high everything, has pretty much made it to where even doctors' fees to go see the doctor has become so expensive to do. So it's kind of like this pressure cooker of a situation. But if Congress could do its job, really, and they have all the people and the most brilliant minds at their fingertips, okay, and find out a way to actually encourage, because I don't think they can do it by policy, but they can write policies which encourage stimulation within the insurance markets and competition and all of these things. Write policy that will also keep in pre-existing coverages, maybe perhaps at, an additional rate. That certain people with certain needs would not be dropped, because those people need care too. And in most cases, that kind of care is out of touch. But with the insurance pools, that's the whole point of insurance, is that some, we all pay in, or if you're in a certain insurance pool, there's a certain money's paid in and certain money's paid out. And the insurance companies know what that number is. And the insurance companies really only make a 3% profit, if you will. Okay? 3 to 5%, depending. So they know just how much these things are going to cost. And certain people who need high and expensive care get care. And then certain people pay in and they don't need as much care, but maybe eventually they do, and so they're able to receive care, but eventually if they need it, yada yada yada. But there are actual numbers that will work, and there are economists out there, and I know a few of them who've spoken on this, and they have a very balanced approach to how this can be done to help encourage a good, equitable outcome for the nation, and without mandating and taking away the people's choice and freedoms, forcing us to pay for things like abortion or other things we don't believe in, forcing people to even, I know of men and women who have had hysterectomies and vasectomies who are forced to pay for insurance plans that cover birth control. I mean, you should be able to buy a plan that doesn't offer that. I mean, that pool of people, I mean, why would you need that kind of coverage if you're not susceptible to those kinds of situations or needs? There are economists who've spoken on this, who've studied this, who, I will tell you, Congress has the means to reach to get the information they want. They just aren't doing it. And so I would say that there's Ted Cruz, who is standing up for the people in terms of some of his policy suggestions. I would say that, his name was right on the tip of my tongue. And unfortunately, I'm talking to you right straight from the heart right now. Mike Lee also provided some really great information on how to kind of open up and create competition and some ideas on how to work this new piece of legislation. So, I mean, we have brilliant minds out there, and it's up to Congress to get their act together and come up with a piece of legislation that's going to help us. And the fact of the matter is this, for me, everyone, I know there are a lot of people like, no, repeal, replace. No, repeal. No, we're not doing anything. Why write bad policy? We don't need more bad policy. We only need good policy. What I'm going to tell you right now is this. We got to do something to bring those premiums down. We got to do something to create competition, and we got to do something now. We can't keep putting it off because they're going to keep kicking the dang can, okay? That's how Congress works. We've seen them do it. Republicans and Republicans alike that we brought into the House, we brought into the Senate, said they were going to do certain things, said they were going to do their job. They've sat there for several years now and done diddly-squiddly, okay? And so we're not going to kick the can anymore. We got to get something moving. Let's get something moving, not bad legislation, just an alteration to maybe existing what we have on the books here that passed through the House. We can adjust it. We can massage it. Okay? We can. They can. It's not the end of negotiation. We are at the beginning of negotiation. But you know what? We can't stop talking about it. We have to push them to act. All right? Now, there's a suggestion, and tonight, I know I'm a little bit passionate. I'm on the road for anybody just joining in. This is the Queen of Politics, Erin Cruz of the Erin Cruz Show. And I'm talking to you from my heart. I've been on travel. Today is the 4th year anniversary of the passing of my late husband. He passed, Rene Cruz. Bless him. He passed pancreatic cancer 4 years ago today. And we're talking about the AHCA because nothing is more important than getting affordable care. Now, this is the thing, is that if you're just joining us, we're talking about the AHCA and the hysteria. Now, I want to make a distinction here real quick because we're coming in about 10 minutes to the end of the show. I want to make a distinction here. When they talk about AHCA or Obamacare or, health care bills, yada, 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 affordable care, no. Y'all need to be brains, okay? You need to be men and women who think for themselves. You need to be citizens of this world in the present and say, I've got a brain between my eyes. What does that mean? Okay? Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, mandating insurance coverage that Obama did, does not guarantee quality, affordable care, period. End of story. Period, end of story. Okay? Now, for the person who's poor and can't afford insurance and is receiving government subsidy or supplemental or free government care, on the back of the taxpayer at the taxpayer expenditure, they have affordable care. The people with some of the premium plans where the insurance is subsidizing and they have $20 copays and a minimal cost, they have affordable care. That does not mean they have quality care. And I'm going to tell you what, I have, through the last 3 years, struggled with the changes in Obamacare. I'm not currently on an Obamacare policy. I'm currently through private insurance. And even with private insurance, I've seen my premium skyrocket, my deductible skyrocket, my out-of-pocket is insane. Trying to get into specialists took me for my knee 2.5 months just to get in to see one specialist. Okay? And that wasn't even, at that point, I hadn't even been able to get the MRI that they needed to order for it. I mean, it's just insane what the impact, and I would say the collision course has been between Obamacare policies, government subsidized policies, and the private insurance market. It's like a train wreck, okay? And we the people are paying for it. And we're not just paying for it in premiums, we're paying for it and sacrificing quality care because doctors are forced to take all of these patients in, and it's too much. They're overburdened, and I've talked to doctor, and some doctors aren't taking certain coverage and care, certain insurances now because of it. So now what we see is affordable insurance and affordable care. Those are kind of oxymorons, I don't know if you will. I mean, they conflict each other. I mean, care costs money. Insurance costs money. The only way to make it affordable is to create competition. You know, the gas station on one corner versus the other, they kind of compete to have the lowest price so that way they attract the drivers, right? Yeah, that's how that works. It's called competition. So when you're a taxpayer and you're sitting there and you've got a brain between those eyes, like I'm talking to you about just a few minutes ago, we're talking about Obamacare, and you see that Affordable Care Act does not mean quality care, and that's something that Nancy Pelosi mentioned. People need to have access to quality care and affordable care. Well, that doesn't necessarily ring true because it just doesn't. That's not the real world. But if we have competition, then guess what? Doctors have to provide better services, insurance companies have to provide better coverage, and guess who wins? You do, I do, we do, okay? And what we need to do in order to make that happen is we need to call Congress, call our senators and House of Representatives. We need to call our reps too because they're all buddies. They all went to the same schools. They all know. And if they know that the citizenry is pissed off and saying, you know what, why aren't you doing your jobs? You guys know how to talk to the right economists, get the right wording in there to get better, more competition, to be able to make this so it'll cross state lines, ease it so that way there aren't mandates like there currently are, that less people are accepted on Medicaid, that should be working, shouldn't be getting handouts, but should be working. The free insurance that's going out, to pay for that, you've had to raise taxes. We need to strip down those taxes. And some of our congresspersons right now are really freaked out about that because they're like, well, how are we going to pay for it? Well, yeah, the money's got to come from somewhere. But this is the thing, folks, is that what it's our job to do is to tell them, look, this is what I need. I need health insurance that's going to pay for me if I have something happen. But I have to be able to put food on my table every day. And I want to be able to choose what kind of insurance that I want. And I don't want the government to be running health insurance and forcing me to choose something that they're subsidizing. Because we all know, okay, we can look at the VA, and I'm not trying to slap any, veterans on the head here. I'm going to tell you that our veterans have been shortchanged, okay? They have been. And this has been many years now. This is not just under Barack Obama, okay? Many years now, our veterans have been shortchanged in deterioration of our VA system, but our VA system is a prime example of a government organization, government health care, managed by government hackies who have no competition. None. Zero competition, these people. And they have lack of standards. Trump, I'm going to touch on, I have 4 minutes left here. I'm going to touch on some. Trump passed legislation to hold VA accountable. I'm going to tell you what. We cannot let our government system become like the VA system. And we cannot let, there no longer is the ability for us to let as a citizenry the VA get away with what it's gotten away up till now. No, it's not acceptable. Veterans need to be cared for. They need to be given top tier care. Better care, okay? Better solutions for care, okay? Not just Band-Aids. I don't want just medicine here. This is not what we're talking about. Pop a pill, you'll feel better, you'll be happy. No. We need to find out what's wrong with people and treat them. Not medicate them, treat them. Find solutions to their ailments, to their health situation, and help them. Okay? And encourage healthier living and encourage healthier lifestyles and give them hope again for complete health and not just pills. Okay? And that's one of the ways that the VA system has failed our veterans, because they just Band-Aid, push it along. No, give them the surgeries they need, give them the treatments that they need, let them find full recovery and live full lives. They've worked for it. Now, the American people, we have too. Many of us have paid into different types of insurance programs over the years, disability insurance and otherwise. I mean, we need to take care of America first, citizens first, period, end of story. And when I see Trump passing legislation, for example, like on the veterans, okay, that's a nice show, wave of hand. When I see him passing for the sanctuary cities, you know what? Great. That's a nod. That's a tip of the hat. But I am far sick and tired of these politicians and Trump. I'm not talking bad about you, man, okay? You're doing a nod of the head, and hopefully you're cleaning up agencies with that legislation. But the fact of the matter is this, is if you're illegal and you're in my country, you're illegal. GTFO. Get out. All right? You don't belong here. You broke the law to get here. You may have a crybaby stance on why you stayed here, but you need to leave. You can't stay. If I went to your country and I didn't have appropriate means to stay there, y'all would tell me to go. Okay? That's as simple as that. I would have no reason to be there. If I want to go to another country and work, I have to apply for visa. I have to go through the proper channels. And many countries still wouldn't even take people from the United States. It's very difficult without proof of sustainability to become a citizen of another nation, or even have dual citizenship, or move somewhere permanently or semi-quasi-permanently, or permanent residence like we have here. So what's getting me is people need to contact their Congress members. They need to say, look, enough is enough. We need to pass something. We need to ease these regulations and mandates. We need to lighten the taxes. We need to take off the burden, create competition, and we need to enforce laws and quit making excuses. And tonight is dedicated, just that, is dedicated to my late husband, Rene Cruz, who, before he passed, really struggled in his work to further the nation in some of the research he did. And I watched him through the process, and it was hard for me. But you know what? He helped grow my mind in the way that I saw that the only way we make change is by talking with other citizens, by talking with other people, and taking action. And that's what we're doing tonight. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Erin Cruz Show, the Queen of Politics. Y'all are fabulous. God bless you. I hope you have a beautiful night with you and your family. And I hope that y'all have a great 4th of July as well. Happy Independence Day coming up. Take care. God bless.